Hey everybody, hope you're having an awesome day today. Today, I'm going to talk about what you need to avoid. Mistakes that you should make as we're coming up to the end of the year so that you can have a more successful investment experience. And this was an article that I read on Bankrate, and I thought it did a really good job of describing 5 of the mistakes that people make, how to avoid making those mistakes. Mistake number 1, living off interest. So what happens when people do this, yes, that sounds good. Oh, I want to earn 5% on my money or 6% or whatever it is. And if I've got $1 million, I'll live off $60,000 a year. Well, anything that's going to pay you the kind of interest in an environment where interest rates are so low is going to have a lot of underlying risk. And as an example, if you wanted to buy a bond that's going to pay you 5-6%, it's either going to be very low credit quality and it's going to have to go out a long time, 10, 15, 20, 30 years in some cases. Most people aren't willing to go that far out to hope they get their money back that far down the road. Second, chasing yield. Similar to number 1. Is people have this idea that I need to get this certain interest on my accounts. And when people do that, you start to chase yield, means chasing risk, because there is no free lunch. If something out there is going to pay you 5, 7, 10% in an environment where interest rates are paying you in the bank 0, there's risk associated with that. Understanding that risk is very important, and don't go around just chasing it because on paper it may sound good. What really underlying risk are there with doing that? This is your money, your retirement that you're thinking about spending for the rest of your life. 3, I see this all the time. I want to see what happens with the election. I want to see what happens whether a Democrat or Republican is elected. Here's the reality. That is going to have very little to no predictable effect on the market. Will it affect the market? Yes, in some way. Will it affect it positively or negatively? You have no idea, and it can't be predicted. That's just the reality of the situation. I mean, when Barack Obama was elected in January or sworn in January, sometime in January of 2009, the market since that time has done phenomenally well. Most people would assume that it hadn't done well and that a Democrat isn't necessarily good for the economy. When George Bush was elected president in 2000, compared to when he left office in 2008, the market was either flat or slightly negative for that 8-year period. Does that mean, if we have a Republican, it's going to be bad, or a Democrat? Absolutely not. It's completely unpredictable. During the Reagan years, the market was phenomenal. During the Clinton years, the market was phenomenal. During the Carter years, it wasn't all that good, but neither was it during the Nixon years. So it just doesn't really make a difference in how the market's going to behave. So basing a strategy, an investment strategy on who's going to be the next president or who your congressman's going to be, I can tell you without any hesitation that is not a good way to go about picking stocks, bonds, or whatever it may be. Second, slow economies. Avoiding slow economies. Don't do it. The reality, just like the election has no really predictable results of how the economy is going to do, or how the market's going to do, so do slow economies do not necessarily predict how the markets of those countries are going to do. Most recent example is China. China's economy is still growing extremely fast relative to most of the rest of the world. We saw 60-70% decline in the Chinese market recently. It wasn't because their economy or their economy actually went negative. They are still experiencing high growth, maybe not as high for them as they have had in the past, but it's still extremely high when compared to the rest of the world. And their economy was down 50-60%. As to where European countries right now have really slow growth, it's been stagnant, and we've actually seen some pretty good returns in some of the European markets over the past few months. So it's not a predictor. You just don't know based on this underlying data or what's happening, how the market's going to do. And then last, and I think this is just with common sense, reacting to news. The news is going to give you noise. Filter information that's meant to sell advertising, sell magazines, whatever it may be, and it's going to just clutter your thinking. Your investment should be based on the rest of your life. whether you're young, you're working towards retirement, whether you are retired, whether you're close to retirement, you still, most likely, barring you're on your deathbed and you want to spend all your money knowing you're going to pass in 6 months or whatever it may be, your money probably has a very long time to work for you, and reacting to what has happened in the near term or the short term is not advisable at all. I think there's a great book called Think and Act Like, Invest Like Warren Buffett by Larry Swardrow. I would recommend anyone purchasing that. And it talks about being disciplined and your investments being built for the long run. Think about the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise wins the race because he's disciplined and stays the course. So if you have questions about this, call me, 770-984-2312. Go to our website, bearwealth.com. Have a wonderful rest of your week and hope to hear from you.